Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's track guide for the IRO4. We're back at Road Atlanta for one of my favorite combinations in all of iRacing at one of my favorite tracks of all time. Road Atlanta kind of gives us it all. There are some technical bits, there are some areas where you can do some nice side by side racing. There's long draft down the back straight to kind of get you back into a fight or to give you a chance to go wheel to wheel and defend. So it's all just a really good time with some really great racing. This lap that we're going to look at this week was actually recorded last season. So I do just want to point that out, but the track conditions are very, very similar. So that's okay. And all of the concepts are exactly the same. It was Daytona 24 week this week, so I didn't have a ton of time to record a new lap. But yeah, that said, again, all the concepts are the same. What we're doing on this lap is exactly what I plan on doing on my laps this season as well. So perfectly valid for us to talk about. Also, before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed, please do so below. It'll help me out tremendously as I try to get enough subscribers to maybe apply for YouTube partnership in the future. So when you guys see ads, maybe I get a little kickback of that instead of it just all going to YouTube. Also, if you are looking for like sim equipment, like sim gloves, check out Muradness.com. I have a 5% coupon code, so you get 5% off at checkout with promo code Elgato. Also, this lap is going to be on Garage 61, so if you want to compare your telemetry to mine, it will be there. Yeah, and if you haven't followed me and come hung out on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Elgato Comapipa. There are a bunch of links in the description below, including chapter markers for this video. So to kind of help you navigate around the video. Anyway, enough shilling, enough me pushing stuff on you. Let's go ahead and take a look at the lap before we dive into the details corner by corner. Before we get started, let's take a look at our track conditions. We have a 36 degrees Celsius track with a 21 degree air temperature and moderate usage at 54%. We did a full tank of fuel before we come in and do a quick splash and dash and then head back out for a couple more laps because I knew that we could do this 119 and I really wanted to hit that for the guide laps last season. That said, we did end up analyzing the 120.294 last season to highlight that using the same concepts can lead you to a faster lap time if you nail them just a little bit better. So this season, I actually do want to analyze the faster lap because it is a very nice, clean lap. And it just highlights how to hit those concepts, maybe just a little bit crisper to find that lap time. So let's go ahead and analyze this lap corner by corner. Turn 1 is a fast right-hander that exits uphill. Because we're fighting gravity on the exit, we want to maintain as much momentum through the corner as we possibly can and get back to throttle as early as possible as well. Any lifts or corrections on exit as we climb the hill will be extra costly because we're fighting gravity. To help us in doing this, we want to open up the entry as much as possible by using some of the extra paved area on the left-hand side where this access road is. A quick warning here. If you clip the grass after the access road, it's very, very likely to spin you. So we're aiming to turn in just as that access road comes to an end, and just after we leave it, we can start working on slowing down the car. We don't need much brakes here, but we also don't want to enter the corner too quickly and risk running wide on exit. That said, we can lightly touch the brakes and do a little bit of coasting to get the car rotating, and we want to keep our eyes at the apex to make sure we can spot the moment we know we're going to hit it. Our goal here is to be back on throttle no later than the apex, but as soon as we know we're going to hit the apex and be safe on exit, we can aggressively get back on throttle. Keeping our vision in the right place is going to help set us up for success here. Again, we're fighting gravity on exit, so early throttle will help us carry more momentum, but we also want to avoid corrections after we commit back to throttle, otherwise, they'll be quite costly. On exit, we want to run the car as close to the exit curbing as we can without touching it too much. If you do anything more than graze it like we do on this lap, the curb will unsettle the car and can either put you into a spin or pull you out into the grass. I'd say we're pretty much at the limit of what we can do on this lap. Turn 1 also leads directly into turn 2, so smoothness on exit here will dictate how well we can set up for entry there. Turns 2 through 4 are all connected to each other in a way that I think makes it easier to talk about them together. In fact, the way I think about them is actually one corner focused around turn 3, with turn 2 acting as the entry and turn 4 acting as the exit. As we get close to cresting the hill, we want to start angling towards the turn 2 apex, with our goal being to meet up with the curbing there and treat it as an entry curbing for turn 3. This is a blind approach and it's difficult to provide a marker here because we're in the middle of the track, so we want to set ourselves up to be able to make small corrections to get to the curbing if we're slightly off target when we start to see it. Because of this, we want to make sure we're gentle and smooth with our inputs here as we turn in and begin to slow the car so we can maintain complete control of the car. We also want to keep our eyes looking where we expect the apex curbing to appear. The earlier we can spot it and the closer our attention is to the right place, the more likely we are to meet up with that curbing the way we want to. As the apex curbing comes into sight, we want to join right up with it and stay on the curbing until we commit towards turn 3, which is also a blind apex. For turn 3, we have a little bit more to work with since we're now on this turn 2 curbing and at the edge of the track. We can use the white line in the middle of the turn 2 curbing as a good reference to base our turn in and braking marker off of. As we pass that white line and come to the end of the turn 2 curbing, we can start to brake and turn in for turn 3 with our eyes once again on where we expect the apex to appear. Our goal for turn 3 is to really get back on throttle as soon as we can because we'll be flat out from here until the turn 5 braking zone. As the apex comes into sight, we want to smoothly release the brakes, and we're aiming to place the nose of the car over the apex with the right half of our car cutting the corner. The ideal line here is very close to getting an off track, but there's plenty of margin to avoid it, and even more margin to avoid getting a slowdown penalty, so feel free to explore being very aggressive with how much curbing you take. On this particular lap, we could have even used a bit more. One of the keys to success here is rotation. We want to make sure we rotate the car enough that we can get back on throttle early while avoiding taking too much of the turn 4 curbing or ending up in the grass. As we hop over the turn 3 apex, we're looking to join up with the turn 4 curbing and follow that as long as possible. The tire placement on the curbing is key here as it is for most curbs at Road Atlanta. We want 2 tires resting on top of the curb but want to avoid using too much of it or the car will bottom out, which can lead to a loss of control. My main bit of advice for this set of corners is to really focus on finding a rhythm. It's hard to nail the perfect line each time, but if you establish a good rhythm here, minor deviations to that line won't cost you too much. The S's in the IRO4 are pretty straightforward. As long as we have a good exit from turns 2 through 4, we should be able to take them easily flat out. The main thing we're aiming for here is to reduce tire scrub and trying to place two tires on each of the apex curbs. For the first S, we have to turn in a little bit blindly once again, and we want to meet up with the curbing relatively early. For the second one, we basically just want to focus on our exit and setting up for a good entry into turn 5 by straightening the car up as much as we can as we exit this second apex curb. Turn 5 is my favorite corner on the track because it requires full commitment and a little bit of bravery to really nail it. As we exit the S's, we immediately turn our attention to blending into the turn 5 entry curbing. Once again, we want to place two wheels on top of it while avoiding bottoming out by using too much of it. The curbing here also acts as our marker to start slowing the car down. We don't need to slow the car down a ton here, but we are looking for a nice, smooth brake release to help keep the car settled as it rotates. For turn in, I don't have a really great marker, but it's more of a feeling that I'll try to explain. Essentially, as we get on the curbing, we want to wait for the car to feel settled and ready to turn in. Our eyes should be on the apex, and as soon as the car settles on the entry curbing, we want to aggressively turn in. It mostly lines up with the straight part of the entry curbing, and as the curbing starts to break away to the right, is where we want to turn in. That said, it doesn't always line up with that depending on how the car is behaving as we hit this curbing. As we head towards the apex, we can aim to use a little bit of the apex curbing, but I found just grazing it as opposed to completely mounting it keeps the car more planted and stable on exit. The exit here is the really fun part. We're aiming to use all of the exit curbing and the extra tarmac to allow us to exit turn 5 as quickly as possible. The main key to survival here is commitment and making sure that your hands are as straight as possible as you hit the exit curbing. Partial commitment or too much steering input here will cause less than ideal outcomes. We also want to make sure we are completely on throttle to make sure the nose of the car is lifted up just a little bit to help us smooth out this bump as we hit the curbing. If you've never done this before, it can be terrifying and take some trial and error to get comfortable with, but once you figure it out, I promise you'll be smiling every lap as you bounce over the curbing. Turn 6 is all about using the camber at the apex and setting up for turn 7. We want to maintain as much speed as we can through turn 6 without running wide or fighting the car on exit because the exit leads directly into the entry of turn 7, which leads onto the back straight where we want to get a very strong exit. We want to start by braking in between the first and second white lines here and guide the car into the camber while aiming to get back on throttle early. We want to gently bleed off the brakes as we head towards the apex and commit back to throttle as soon as we get there. Running wide here is the biggest danger to our lap because the curbing on exit can pull us out into the grass or cause us to spin. If you're struggling here, make sure to focus your efforts on a smooth and controlled exit because this is going to set us up for a good turn 7 where we're exiting onto this long back straight. Turn 7 might be the most important corner on the track because it leads onto the long back straight, so a good run out of here is going to determine how well we can either attack the car ahead or defend from the car behind. There isn't a great marker for braking in turn 7, so for me it's all about timing. As soon as we become parallel with the curbing on the exit of turn 6 and the car is stable, we want to start smoothly slowing the car. Our eyes should be on the apex and we're aiming to just clip the apex curbing. It can be very tempting to try to take too much speed here, but that will either lead to a spin or running wide on exit. As we come to the end of the entry curbing, we can start to turn in and smoothly release the brakes as we head towards the apex. The exit onto the back straight is the most important aspect here, so we really want to focus on slowing and rotating the car enough early so we can commit back to throttle early at the apex and maintain that throttle without correction on exit. On the exit, we can use a little bit of the curbing, but not too much, or the car will bottom out and limit our acceleration. So, once again, we're looking to place two tires on top of it, but not go much further. This back straight technically contains turns 8 and 9, although they aren't much more than a kink. That said, we do want to keep the car on the shortest possible path down this back straight between those two kinks. The turn 10 chicane is our final braking zone. From the first apex here, we should be on full throttle all the way until turn 1. With that in mind, our focus is on the exit. We want to brake right around the 100 board, and our goal here is similar to what we did in turn 3. We want to rotate the car enough to be back on throttle at the apex while we aim to place the center of the car over the apex, cutting the corner with roughly half the car. Running deep on entry or missing the apex will limit our commitment back to throttle here, so it's better to overslow the car than it is to underslow the car to ensure that we get a nice strong exit because we are full throttle for so long. As soon as we get to the first apex, we want to be able to commit back to full throttle and stay full throttle as we head through the second apex and exit, shifting our attention to reducing tire scrub as we power through the second apex and up the hill towards the end of the lap. Turns 11 and 12 are easily flat out, so there really isn't much to say here. That said, in between the two apexes, we don't need to use all of the track because the IRO4 has enough grip and doesn't have enough power for us to really benefit from going wide there. The only times we'd really want to use all the track is when we're starting our first qualifying lap or if we're side by side with another car and we want to leave them plenty of space. That said, we'll keep it easily pinned as we head down this hill between the two apexes and across the finish line to complete our lap here at Road Atlanta. All right, everyone. Once again, I just want to give a big thank you to you all for watching these, for giving me feedback, for commenting, for liking, subscribing, all that kind of stuff. It's just very, very helpful for me to know that you guys enjoy these. That gives me motivation to continue to do them. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I love Road Atlanta. I think the racing is going to be great this week. This is a great track to learn a lot about bravery, maybe yeeting the car a bit over some curbs. Um, it's also a great place to practice your racecraft and to do a little bit of wheel to wheel action. So I hope you enjoy the racing this week as much as I plan on enjoying it. But until I see you next time, please take care of yourselves and have fun out there.